to call upon Comrade Taimur Rahman to address this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Harpal, and I'd like to thank the CPGBML for organizing this great event. People have stopped celebrating October, it seems to me, and I think it's very important to do so. And the best way to do so is to try and understand what socialism is about. Now, you'll hear this over and over again. Marxism is economic reductionism, Marxism is economic determinism. But actually, Marxism points to the one thing that is extremely important, which is that the economy really does determine and condition a lot of what goes on in society. Which is why today, to celebrate October, I've decided to talk a little bit about socialist economics and about in comparison to capitalist economics. Now, the minute you mention socialism, you hear this tape running in your mind, like Jyoti said, especially for our generation. Oh, socialism is equal to government, which is equal to lack of incentive, which is equal to inefficient. Capitalism is equal to greed, profit motive, selfish motive, profit, and therefore it creates incentives for growth, and it is equal to innovation. This is the standard formula you get from when you begin to study economics in O-levels and A-levels, and it continues through university onto your PhD and so on and so forth. But in fact, this is a load of, pardon the expression, but BS. The fact of the matter is that innovation, which is the bedrock of what drives the economy, does not occur because somebody or the other sitting in the backyard decides to split an atom. Clearly, you would recognize that an atom cannot be split in your backyard. Innovation, scientific innovation, is really the product of research and development organizations. And the dominant research and development organizations in the world today, whether you look at the most advanced capitalist society, or you look at the Soviet Union, or anywhere else, you will discover that they are all funded by the government. None of them are under private control, whether you look at NASA or anything else. And the enormous spin-off of what we call the second scientific and technological revolution, the second industrial revolution, the creation of satellite technology, fiber optics, chips, etc., that are used in computers and so many other things that we use in consumer electronics and so on today. Those are all spin-offs of science technology that were created through NASA and through other government-sponsored research and development organizations. So this great worship at the altar of innovation is actually all occurring through government spending anyway. And this is something that is just obscured from everyone's view. The thing about socialist and capitalist economics is that there's an interesting paradox. Everyone knows that the Soviet Union managed to defeat the largest army assembled in its day, which had the combined economic power of all of continental Europe behind it. That is the fascist armies of Germany and Italy and so many other countries. They defeated them all. One single country, one socialist economy with several republics within it. And then after that, the devastation caused, in which 20-25 million people lost their lives from the Soviet Union, something like 70% of industry is wiped out. They rebuilt it all and became another superpower. They accomplished these, and if I go back into history, they went through World War I, they went through a civil war. Each time that society was entirely destroyed, and then once again they were a superpower. I mean, how did they accomplish these fabulous miracles? And then suddenly we discover in the 1970s and 80s, Gorbachev comes along and says, the Soviet Union is in crisis. Why is the Soviet Union in crisis? Because, according to Gorbachev, it is no longer catching up with the West at the same rate as it was doing. It's still catching up with the West, but it's just not catching up with the West as fast as it was catching up with the West before. That was the big crisis. Anyway, even though, let's accept Gorbachev for now, right? Why did the Soviet Union gradually slow down in terms of its economic development and growth? For this, we'll have to go back to the reason why it grew so rapidly. Now, there was a time when the bourgeoisie, when they required the mobilization of workers and peasants, they made everything quite simple and said, well, this is what we need to get rid of that king, so come join us, you'll get freedom, you'll get democracy, come join us. Now is not that time. Now's the time that the bourgeoisie wants to make everything complicated. And I can find no better, and they don't want to explain it to workers and peasants because they don't want workers and peasants to be mobilized and organized. And I can find no better example of this than the field of economics, in which everything is completely obscured, abstracted into various mathematical formulas from which you can't get your head out of, so you don't understand anything that's going on. Actually, economics is really simple, and people just like making it very complicated. Even Marx's Capital is actually very easy to understand. The language is difficult. He writes in German. His sentences go on for 3 pages. That's what makes it hard. But the concepts themselves are actually not hard at all to understand. What drives growth? That's the central thing that I want to get at today. What drives growth, i.e. productivity, the capacity of society to produce more and more, is the fact that humanity creates, through social labor, all labor is social, through social labor, implements tools and machines that help humanity mobilize nature in a manner that is beneficial to humanity. That's economic growth in a nutshell. That's not very complicated, is it? It's just tools. It's just machines. The development of tools and machines is economic development. Now the thing about capitalism is that the very process that develops tools and machines and introduces them into the economy simultaneously displaces scores and scores, millions, sometimes millions of workers from the economy, because machines take the place of workers. And unless new investment comes in, more and more workers will be displaced by machines. So this means that the very process which increases the capacity of society to grow simultaneously decreases the capacity of society to purchase on the market what has grown or what has been produced. And this causes a recurrent economic crisis. That every time you go through the introduction of this new machines into society, new technology into society, and you displace hundreds and thousands of people from the market, what is the result? There is a slump in demand, and people can't sell their commodity. Not people, but capitalists cannot sell their commodities, and as a result, you see economic crisis such as the one you're witnessing today. Now, how does socialism work? In socialism, and in fact in every society, whether it's capitalism or it's socialism, what happens is that a certain percentage of your revenue or your ability to work, which is one and the same thing, is reserved for reinvestment into the creation of machines. So, for instance, we will say that, all right, these 10 people, if we were one society, these 10 people will be responsible for producing new machines that the other 90 people will be using. Now, in capitalism, the way that we determine, the way that the market determines whether it's going to be 10 people or 20 or 50 that are going to be producing these machines is through the market mechanism of profit. And that is that all the capitalists want to earn as much profit as they want to, so they will only build machines, and they will only build the type of machines which earn them profit. That's the bottom line. They will not build machines that will help people. They will build machines that will earn them profit. So it is what Marx called the normalization of the rate of profit, the equalization of the rate of profit. Adam Smith also talked about it, which determines where that savings and reinvestment is going to go. But in socialism, you don't have to do it through the market. You can do it through a central plan. We can all get together and we can decide, okay, what we want to do, friends, is that we want, in order to develop our society, what we want to do is to increase the number of enterprises that are producing machines that are going to boost the productivity of our society. This is what Stalin called, very briefly and simply, the production of the means of production.